Welcome to Inspiration Inc., a brand new series featuring luminaries from India who have inspired generations with their achievements and aura. We bring you beyond the boardroom conversations and witness the other side of these legends.
Welcome to Inspiration Inc. We have a very special guest with us today. We have Mr. Nirmal Jain, the man who has transformed the broking industry in India. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Times Network. As the name goes, Inspiration Inc. So I'm going to discuss a lot of inspiring things with you. But first of all, I want to know that is this what you really wanted to do? What you're doing right now? Or was it planned? Or it just happened?
It wasn't planned this way. Of course, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in financial services. But I think many times whatever happens, people come back and ask you for a vision, but vision is 80% hindsight, 20% foresight. You keep taking a day at a time, keep adapting yourself to changing environment, keep moving along. So if, almost 24, 25 years ago when I started my entrepreneurial journey, I can't say that I could have thought of this. And nobody in India could have, because the way India has reformed and transformed was beyond imagination and expectations of young people of my generation. So those days, early 90s or late 80s when I passed out, I don't think anybody had visualized that India will grow this well. And the opportunities can be so phenomenal.
In fact, after you passed out, I think your first job was with HUL?
That's right.
Yeah. So, HUL is always a dream job. Anybody who works for it, and especially in those days, in 80s and all. So, their ambition would be now to stick around in HUL. What made you move out of HUL? And why did you move out?
I'm from a family of businessmen. They're typically Marwari traders, businessmen, where everybody is wants to be on his own.
Yeah.
So I always had ambition to become an entrepreneur, become a businessman, generate employment. Always I used to think that if a business that can generate, say, 400, 500, 1,000 people's employment is always a good thing to do. And, you can do a lot more innovative thing, creative thing, you are on your own. And so I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I wasn't sure whether I'll be an entrepreneur in financial services or in some other business at that point in time. Of course, there was always, leaning towards financial services because of my academic background. But when I joined HUL, even the FMCG business was looking very exciting because I was just part of that business. When I passed out from campus and I joined Levers, so, if I had to talk at home, I would say that, okay, let me work for 2 years or 2-3 years kind of a thing, but I lasted much longer. And the fact of the matter is that HUL is a great company to work with, and I learned a lot. And many times you have perception that larger companies are more bureaucratic and not entrepreneurial, but here's a company which is so big, even at that point in time, and now it is today, but it's still entrepreneurial. So you'll find that people working late hours, people working, trying new things, taking responsibility and ownership of whatever they do. It's just part of culture, and it's not. And the culture comes from the autonomy, freedom, and the way the entire the whole organization works. So it was a great experience, and I think I continued there for 5 years, and then got into financial services when I saw that sector was just taking off and appeared very bright from long-term perspective at that point in time.
In fact, I was coming to this question, and that is where the foresight comes in. Because when you were actually thinking about financial markets and, starting something on your own in financial markets, actually that was the time when markets were being looked upon as a casino. So at least the retail investor part or the majority of India used to believe that ye apne ko samajh mein nahi aata and this is like a casino. At that point, to, leave a job in something like Levers and go on your own and start something like this, it needs courage. So where did you get that from?
When I left Hindustan Lever in 1994, first thing I did was join hands with two brokers, Motilal Oswal and his partner Ramdev Agrawal, and set up their research, which was at that point in time named Inquire as an independent entity, which was part of the brokerage, but still Indian Equity Research, and that, So obviously I started my career with research. So it became very clear because I think the reforms had started in 1991 and India was opened up to foreign brokers and foreign investors. And although research was very nascent in terms of its, the way it was developing, but it was very clear that when foreigners come, they look at research and there's an interesting opportunity. So, when I started in 89, working in 89, from there I had a little bit of savings. which I started investing in stock market. And those days there were magazines, newspapers, and balance sheets. So I found it really...
Bhav copy, which people...
Bhav copy also used to come at the end of the day. And you know, I found it interesting to analyze, and because those days the market was not over-researched and the opportunities were very big. And it was very clear that things are changing. And that's why Motilal and Ramdev also betted on me to set up a separate research department. So I think that's how I took the jump and the challenge.
So, in fact, you are credited with setting up one of the first formal research engines in India, because till then it was happening on very ad hoc basis. People used to refer to balance sheets or annual reports and all. So those days, did you really see that the research arm of it and this whole mechanism, the way broking business works, it will evolve into something like what it is today? Because it was followed by your you stepping into the online trading. So you were one of the first movers in the online trading also. Did you really see that?
So we could see that research will become important, but what was not known at that point in time was that the technology and the digital technology and information will become so easily available. So the way research is done will change. So that time when we started, getting a balance sheet for 5 years was itself a challenge. Getting a press clipping file was a task. True. Getting some meetings and getting industry data was itself, a significant value-added input in the research exercise. So that way research has changed a lot, but I could see at that point in time that if the knowledge and information is going to be the basis of stock valuations increasingly, because institutional investors that come and invest, and they will dominate the market, and they will drive, they will lead, and the retail investors will follow. And the local mutual fund have become a force now, but at least that time UTI came with a fund, and UTI, which had a very big response. So I think mutual fund industry will grow was very well known. Nobody knew that it will be a roller coaster ride, but I think at the end of it, it's done much better than what we expected, but the direction has been right.
So then when you decided to go on your own and set up your own firm, then how did you get going on that one?
I knew one thing, that this business is something where your only capital is people. You really can't depend on a technology or computer or machinery, or is primarily driven by people. And even capital becomes less important because it's all knowledge driven. At the end of the day, you really don't require much capital to do research. As long as you have good quality people. So we attracted people with equity, and that has been the model, that okay, let it be a partnership. So I was the key founder, but then we'll keep attracting best quality people. So when you have to get best quality people, they will typically be working with foreign banks, MNCs or large corporates, right? So you really can't compete with them in terms of salaries or compensation or bonus. But really what can drive them, so people are driven, and they say, okay, we become part owners, and then the wealth that we create can be much more larger, significant piece compared to what they are drawing by way of salaries, and that's what actually has worked.
So when you decided to start the online trading platform, now I want you to actually share that experience, because that time it was not really the major currency, the online trading part, and India was also just getting into that demat territory. So what were the initial hiccups, and at any point did you feel that this was maybe much ahead of time?
First we started an online website. So we had huge content, almost 50,000 pages of content. So we tried to convert that to HTML, and we realized that the lowest code that we got was 1,000 rupees per page, or maybe 500 rupees per page. But that would have wiped out all our capital. So you have to find a solution. So we that time, so Venkat had joined as a promoter in 1999, and so we said that okay, let's try and hire programmers and do it ourselves. So similarly, when we got into e-broking, so I remember I'd gone to US and tried to meet E-Trade, and very senior official there. Then I realized that their CEO's salary at that point in time was almost like 40-50 times our net worth. So forget about an alliance or a tie or getting technology from E-Trade. So we came home and we thought that okay, we have to do it ourselves. So originally we started with Odin product of FT, but then product was more for larger traders and not really for retail customers.
Correct.
So we started working on our own technology platform with some vendors, some outside, but I'm not a technology. My background is not technology, because I'm as you know, I'm a chartered accountant, cost accountant. I come a lot more with financial, but at least I traded in stock market, I invested, so I knew what a trader or investor would need. So our trader terminal became very popular because it has streaming codes, real-time, instant order confirmation, trade confirmation, technical charts, many other things, that the large banks broking house did not have. And so that became our weapon, because typically, supposing in those days we go as India Infoline, what was our original name, nobody knows what India Infoline is. Who are you, kind of a thing. Why will I trust you with my money? Because in stock market, you transfer your shares and margin, right?
Yeah.
But our technology was such that once you see this, it was addictive. Because there's a screen which is like a bolt or need, and at no cost on your computer terminal. And we did a lot of innovation, because the last mile connectivity at that point in time, the bandwidth was very poor.
True.
Now you can see video, but best time the last mile is so that you really have to innovate. So you only have to send certain minimum text data on the client's terminal, but still he sees the screen so we created an exe. So there's a file which resides on the hard disk, and it basically keeps all the templated data and just gets the refresh price and does all the computation on the client machine itself.
Correct.
But many other things we did, and I think so with that, slowly, gradually we started getting credibility, and stock markets turned around in 2003. So what happened, I became an entrepreneur in 1995. From 1995 till 2003, in stock market was almost like a bear phase or a recessionary years, except for IT blips. So IT sector did very well in between, but other than that, markets are not going anywhere. So we had to struggle. But in 2003, fortunately for us, our technology and trader terminal stabilized and markets took off.
Today where we are in the market, and now really you have retail investors also warming up, the mutual fund industry has really performed well. Now that kind of wealth creation that probably you witnessed from 2003 for next 5 years, or even after the 2008 pullback, do you think that kind of wealth creation is possible now?
Whether the indices will multiply like that or not is very difficult to say. Okay, because I think we already had a run for last 4 years. Since this new government came to power in 2014, we had a big run. But I think the wealth creation that we will see over a longer term, say next 10 years, will be much bigger than whatever we have seen in our lifetime earlier. And the primary driver for wealth creation is the economic growth. Okay, so if you really look at it, then India's economic growth is around 7.5% this year, kind of thing, which is 6.7 last year maybe. And we did not have this kind of growth historically for a longer time period. So what happens in the stock market, that many times when the market gets into bull market, anybody who has stock might appreciate, but otherwise markets won't give you too much of time to catch up. So if you are sitting on stock, and 2003 very few people are really sitting on equity holdings as such.
True.
So you see markets going up, but I don't think the wealth creation happened at the mass level. But now there are a lot more people into mutual fund, SIPs, stock market, and the economic growth can be much faster and stronger over longer time period.
So now tell me one thing, during those days, from 90, since the time you started your own business, are there any 1 or 2 investments which you would like to highlight, which were your probably wild guess or biggest bets, and they turned out to be right?
So I think the investment that I can talk about, investment in people. Because what happened, since I started the business, I really have not been an analyst, or maybe till we are not like really looking at stocks we never had any proprietary portfolio of any significance. We never got into proprietary trading. If you look at IIFL for 24 years, we have tried to focus on client business as such.
Correct.
So investment in people, originally we started with some of the promoters that I spoke about. Then we became with our online trading platform a retail broker.
Correct.
And in retail we became among the leading retail brokers. Then some of high quality professionals and people known to me and my friends in CLSA. So that was a big investment, and that was a very risky bet, because we talked about stocks and the sign-on bonus which was given so that they could subscribe to the stocks. That itself in those days was around 45 crores, and the total stock value was 400 crores kind of thing. So it was a significant equity which was given to attract this team. So it was a big investment. Investment you can make by way of money or by way of equity, but it's investment at the end of the day. And then immediately after that, so that happened in 2006. and 2006, 7, then 7, 8, a year or year and a half later, we invested again in wealth team. So we get something like very high quality professionals again from a leading wealth manager, and so that's the model. I think so. We invested in our institutional broking team first, then wealth team. Both these things have been really great investments. Actually, they've been tipping point for the company.
Right. So after all this, and obviously the market was much bigger, IIFL was much bigger. After that, how was it to run into NSEL crisis? Because nobody saw it coming, and it actually spoiled the sentiment for, I would say, the entire industry, not necessarily only IIFL. And we spoke a lot of times during those days also. But I mean, now what is your learning from that crisis?
Our biggest learning is, I think, yeah, there are some learnings. You can't really say that. But whether there are some cues like this, that something is really, not proper or whatever, you may err on the side of caution. You may try and be, a little bit more vigilant. But again, these are things which are, as I said, that, if you really look at the way the sequence of things happened, it's very difficult to say that somebody could have avoided this.
Correct.
But I think only thing is that, okay, you can be more diligent, more careful. And even if when there is smallest cue, you are in a business which is so fragile in terms of trust and faith and perception, that you have to be ultra careful. And obviously you have to strengthen your risk framework, compliance framework, your vigilance, your own internal intelligence of what's happening around and things like that.
Right. So I'm going to ask you a couple of personal questions. Now, one is, what is it that you want to teach to your kids? They must be looking, and you must be their hero, So what is it that you teach them?
So I think, this is a question that I answered. So I have a very standard an answer for this.
No, I don't want a standard answer.
No, but okay, what I tell my kids and what I try to tell my kids, not in so many words, but by examples and by being, me and my wife, we try to. So I think 3H, the three basic values that are important, and they can be, for ease of memory, can be, captured in 3H, so which is honesty, hard work, and humility.
If you were to gift a book, any one book, to your kids, which book that will be?
Then, this autobiography of Mahatma Gandhi, or that's called My Experiments with Truth.
Experiments with Truth. Has that book really influenced the way you have lived or your life?
I read that book much earlier in my life, as a teenager, and obviously that has influenced. That's something which has molded. But I have read many more books, so I really can't say that. But of course, that book had profound influence on the way I think and the way I look at life.
Who is your hero in life? Everybody has a hero. So who's your hero?
No. So there's so many heroes, from Steve Jobs to Narendra Modi. So all these are heroes. So, really can't have one heroes, but there's so many.
Are you a sports person? Do you like sports?
So I like sports. I like watching sports. But what I do now is mostly, the walking or jogging kind of a thing. And I'm learning golf. But yeah.
Who's your favorite sports star?
Today, it's fun to watch Virat Kohli all the time. So, amongst the. There's so many of them,
Right. Last question to you. Is there any one ambition which still gives you sleepless nights? Anything which you really want to do, which you really want to achieve? It could be material, it could be immaterial, but one thing.
So maybe actually, yeah, I think, so maybe I'm 51, 52 kind of thing now. And if the health and everything permits, then I want to do something really significant and meaningful for the society.
Okay.
So we took up the cause of educating illiterate girls, children in Rajasthan villages. But now what is happening that even the business and the job, the job requirements are also such, or my business requirement, that really I can't have adequate time or do justice to both.
Right.
But maybe if my ambition or my wish is that I should have good, at least 10 years of time post, getting out of the active work life is this business what we have, so that you can achieve something meaningful, something which is really which makes a difference and which is significant.
Right. All right, sir. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much, sir.